This week on the Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast of the Shotgun Sports Network of podcasts, Joe and I will debate whether the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are a dynasty. No, I'm kidding. We're going to talk about last week's games, next week's games coming up. Hi, welcome to the Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast. My name's Oz Davis. I'm the co-host of the show, and joining me, as ever, fresh off a stint on the Elks Call podcast, my co-host Joe Pritchard. Joe, how is it going this evening?
Wonderful. Couldn't be better.
Okay, wow, that's a good positive intro. I like that. There are several storylines that we could talk about from last week's games in the CFL. It's interesting to me that there's four games maximum a week, and yet there's so many storylines to discuss. I guess that's the nature of football. Um, Let me start with this, Joe. How did you know to play Raquel Armstead in fantasy this week?
Because he was a cheap running back,
Okay.
and teams like, and there had, and you can really stack up with expensive running backs getting not a lot of production. So I always like to go one expensive guy usually, and then one guy that I know is going to get a lot of touches, or at least 10, 15, and get me a decent amount of yards, some bang for my buck, and then go heavy on the wide receiver position.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, well, I was patting myself on the back because I finally pulled the trigger on Jalen Philpott this week. I've been thinking about playing him basically every week since the season began. This week, I finally pulled the trigger, and I was all proud of myself because I got 19 fantasy points out of it. And then I see your squad, and you've got Armstead for 20, who goes for 20 fantasy points. And really, with the show he put on, they should have just given him another 10 just for the effort because wow, he was awesome. And that's going to be a heck of a pickup too next week with the Riders playing in Ottawa. The already second game with this new team, and we get the revenge game. So might be a decent pickup in fantasy this week. However, I feel like I should apologize to you as well, Joe, because last week I in the what is it in the Canadian Football Podcast Network Fantasy Football League. Last week I barely escaped with my life against Duchess Lombardi, uh, Commish KD, otherwise known as, winning by 1.3 points. And then I see to get revenge this week, she beat you by 3 points.
Which is fine. She's actually having a fantastic season and nothing but good things.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
her.
Well, yeah, you're looking pretty good there in second place. You feel good?
I'd have preferred to be in first, but you know, I'll take what
uh,
I can get right now because in about the middle of the season, it wasn't looking so good. So
uh, Yeah, same story here. Same story. I'm in the same exact position I was in last year. I'm at 8-8 going into the final game. I'm going to be fighting to make that final spot. There's something like four of us tied at 8-8. And so I'm going to need, I think, two of them to lose. And I need to win because I'm not going to get in on points. So it's a nail biter. Why do we play fantasy football, Joe?
because we need another thing to be nervous about, I guess.
I was just thinking about this when I was watching some commercial, offering player prop bets, and I just thought to myself, "Yep, here's another way to lose at football every week, right?" And that's the nature of fantasy football. We must all be secret masochists, those of us who play, waiting for that 1 year in 20 when you actually win the league. In any case, okay, so let's talk about last week's real games in the CFL. Started off with a real barn burner. Hamilton Tiger Cats 33, Toronto Argonauts 31. Um, I'm interested to get your thoughts on this game. I feel like on the one hand, Hamilton is playing their best football of the year. We had the classic Bo Levy Mitchell fourth quarter drive with what minute and a half left, maybe less, maybe a minute left. Nice little drive. Unfortunately, Toronto was just playing a very relaxed prevent defense and just let Bo complete. I think it was 5 of 6 passes, all of which were 7 yards or less, and enough to get the field goal and win the game. Now, Hamilton is up to 5-9, 5-9, I believe, and they're starting to get some hype, especially on TSN, but in some other media outlets. But the truth is, they've won 3 games against Toronto, and again, I feel like this team is too little, too late. After having dug themselves such a hole early this season, I wrote them off. I mean, can I mean, is Hamilton still alive realistically, Joe?
I mean, they have the tiebreaker over Toronto, don't they?
Yeah, this is true, but they also have that tie.
No, Toronto 7-7, Hamilton's 5-9. So
Oh, okay, right. Ottawa does not have the tie this year.
right,
After
Ottawa's got the tie, and if they were to somehow win out, Saskatchewan would have to win uh 3 games. I want to say no, yeah, 3 games.
Mhm, mhm.
So I mean, the east to west crossover is not completely off the board.
Wow. Wow. I was going to ask you about playoff scenarios
Oh,
later.
we do have playoff scenarios too, the
Oh, we do.
actual
Okay.
things rather than just wild baseless speculation. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, Hamilton's not dead.
Yeah. No.
Also, it's after Labor Day, so their seasons never do start until Labor Day, like the old saw about Canadian football goes. So
Mhm, mhm,
they
mhm.
actually seem to be living proof of that the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. 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 I mean, again, Canadian football is a game of streaks. And of course, naturally, you want that streak to come at the end of the year rather than at the beginning of the year. For example, Saskatchewan and BC. Um, I this struck me though, Joe. I wanted to talk to you about this one too. Okay, so I give you this before the game. All right. I tell you, Bo Levy Mitchell is going to go 31 of 40 for 362 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. He has 5 receivers with at least 4 catches. Okay. I'll tell you that. Mark Leggio is going to go 6 of 6 on field goals. Okay. Hamilton is going to win the turnover battle. All right. Okay. It's 1-0, but a win's a win. Right. And Hamilton is going to win time of possession 36-24. How do the Ticats only win this game by 2 points? Why was it this
Because
close?
Toronto was able to score quickly.
Okay, okay, all right. Now, I I know you're hardly a Chad Kelly fan. What do you make of what's happening in Toronto with Chad Kelly? Because what I see is a lot of this is my team. What I see is a lot of Chad. I mean, in this game, Chad passes for a touchdown, scores two on his feet. And I feel like he's not making anyone better. Kadeem carries and yardage have plummeted in the past 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, Kelly seems to be turning this Argos offense into a me first offense. I mean, is this the feeling you're getting as well?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I have questions that can't be answered by us. That
Uh-huh.
probably can't be answered by anybody that's not inside that locker room.
Uh-huh.
But I wonder how well things are going after he came back.
Right, right.
Because
Because
you would always get flashes last year too, like especially early in the season,
Mhm,
where it seemed like there was just a little bit of trouble brewing underneath the surface, but winning cures a lot of things.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Oh yeah, yeah.
This year,
Especially when
7-7 it isn't losing, but at the same time, it isn't winning like they were last year either.
mhm,
So it's going to let some festering wounds potentially get worse and worse and worse until it's too late to save things.
mhm.
But again, that's just me playing amateur psychologist.
Oh
That's not
yeah,
anything
oh yeah.
that I can tie anything to.
You can't help but notice if you're watching these games. You can't help but notice there doesn't seem to be any interaction here. Like these guys are not necessarily enthusiastic about playing with this man at quarterback. You really get that feeling. It reminds me a lot of when Johnny Manziel was playing with the Alouettes for those few games. It reminds me of that. A lot of, here's the superstar with the reputation. It's all about me, right? I'm Michael Jordan. It's just like, I don't know, Chad. Football is kind of a team game. Even for a quarterback, it's hard for an individual to dominate. But it
And
seems
I've
to
heard
me that.
stories of offensive linemen intentionally missing blocks to let quarterbacks they don't like get knocked out of the lineup.
Oh sure, oh sure,
Not to say that that's happening here, but that's a story that's been told more than once in
oh
Major
yeah,
League football.
oh yeah, oh yeah. If you're watching the Cleveland Browns south of the border, yeah, yeah, you suspect such a thing exists for sure. Um, okay, so going on, another scoreboard spinner. Saskatchewan Roughriders 37, Calgary Stampeders 29. This is the game featuring the two, inexpensive surprise fantasy picks for the week. But okay, I want to know your opinion on this one, Joe. I haven't seen the pick'em page on the official website cfl.ca yet, but and every week there, in case you don't play CFL pick'em, in addition to picking the games, they also have a little opinion poll or whatever posting two plays, and you pick which one is better, which one you liked more. Right? Okay. Well, for my money, the play of the week was the first quarter run by Tommy Stevens for the Stamps. Okay. So it's 2nd and 1. Bring in Tommy Stevens. It looks like it's going to be the scrum for the 1 yard. Instead, and this was what was wild about it, instead, Reggie Bagleton, who's lined up on the line on the right side, just throws this tremendous block on his man. And, Stevens is able to hit that edge and run for 69 yards. Now, Thomas the Tank Engine. This should be the man's nickname. That was his only carry of the game. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay? But Let me ask you this one, Joe. All right. I have two questions for you. How many plays of 40 or more yards have the Stamps had this season?
Not
And when
enough.
was the and when, and when was the last time they had one?
I don't know. It doesn't
Okay.
feel like it's been any time recently, though, except for that one, of course.
Okay. Okay. They have had four such plays all season. And that includes
What
special
were
teams.
three of them in that game in Winnipeg where they were both teams who are the two lowest scoring teams in the league, mind you,
Right.
decided to light the scoreboard up that one day.
Right. Right. Well, no, in fact, there was at least one in that game. Uh, but the last time they've had a play, even over 31 yards was back in week 10. So, I mean, this had been a team in Bo Levy Mitchell's heyday, especially, that was known for the big play. Right? They could just whip this off. This has not been the case this season. Again, it's no surprise, that Jake Meyer does not throw the long ball. No surprise that most teams in the league are willing to let him complete these short passes all day long because apparently the big play can make or break a team here. Now, the thing is, okay, after this point, what? The Stamps outscored them. The Riders outscored the Stamps 31 to 10. Okay. Still, it's a close game. All right. Now, again, we're not in the locker room, Joe. We are not experts on this level. But let's second guess Dave Dickinson. All right. About
Also,
one.
something we're not qualified to do, but we're going to do it anyway.
Right, exactly. As fans with a podcast, it is our duty. Okay, so there's about a minute and a half left in the fourth. The Riders, I wouldn't say they're stopping everything this whole game, but it's not like the Stamps have an explosive offense. And yet they call for a pass on 3rd and 1. Why are you not bringing in Stevens here? Why are you not running it here?
The only thing I can think of is that they had a play that they had set aside for this very thing. And for some reason,
Okay.
it just didn't play out the way that it was expected to play out. I
Okay.
guarantee you, every coach that's worth his salt anyway has like two or three plays where, I mean, it's 3rd and 1. The other thing is the clock's against you here, right? So if you get into that messy pile, it's going to take some time to pick it apart. It's going to take some time to get the
Mm,
ball down. You got to switch in players in and out too. Where and the clock does stop after plays inside 3 minutes. At the same time, you don't want to be wasting a lot of time when it restarts after the ball is placed, getting yourself set up.
mhm,
So that might be the real answer here
mhm,
is that he was playing the clock more so than he was playing um, a specific play.
mhm,
But that also tells you that he doesn't believe that they could take a yardage by chunks. He knew they needed at least 5 or 6 more snaps to get that far down the field again. And he didn't want to waste any time whatsoever.
Right. Okay. 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 This makes sense. This makes sense. Um, I mean, the gamble might have even worked. Unfortunately, again, for one final play, they could not stop Armstead. And so Armstead more or less gained enough for the first down. Game over after that. But okay, that makes sense. I mean, it felt to me like he was really going for the win here, even down by 8. But yeah, okay. This is
That's him just screaming out into the void. I can't
yeah,
trust my quarterback to make a 20-yard pass here. I need to give him 6 plays to get as far down the field as we can possibly get.
yeah, yeah. This kind of felt like the last breath for the Stamps for 2024. I think this was maybe the end, or at least time to begin the epilogue on this season for the Stamps. I really think.
They are the first team that cannot finish 500. Edmonton can still
Oh,
make it. Hamilton can still make it. Calgary is
wow.
4-9-1. They cannot finish 500.
Wow, that's quite a stat. Hmm. Okay. All right. Good point there. Now, all right. On the other side, you have just a nice, efficient offense here, thanks to Armstead. 207 carries on 25 yards. I did not do enough homework to find out when the last time somebody ran for 200 yards in the CFL was. Do you have it off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
Okay. Because, wow, what a show. If you like the running game, let's hope you're watching this game. Wow. And again, next week against Ottawa, I'm expecting a beast from Armstead. The man can still play. He may
He
have
can
his
still
issues, but the
play,
man can still play.
but Ottawa plays a different style of defense than Calgary does. And Ottawa's got a reason to be pissed off at Armstead, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think he's going for 200. Actually, read Ben Grant this week. He's going to explain in depth what Calgary was doing and why Saskatchewan was able to take such clear advantage of it and give
Yeah.
Armstead all that space.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good call there. I liked Trevor Harris. He had the nice fantasy line, but that's pretty normal for Trevor Harris. But really excellent efficiency. 16 of 18. 248 yards, one touchdown, no interceptions. Now, good win for the Riders. Necessary win for the Riders. First win for the Riders since week 7. Okay. Um, let's take the temperature here. Joe, biases aside, do you think that the Riders have a decent hold on third place? Or are they still looking in the rearview mirror at the Elks?
They'd better not take their eyes off the Elks, but the Elks
Okay.
do have Winnipeg this week, and Winnipeg needs to win to keep what they've got going. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Edmonton's got a hard road ahead of them. Saskatchewan is slightly easier because they have a little bit of they have at least a little bit of wiggle room now.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't get complacent. This is the first time they won a game after Labor Day since 2021. So they might want to do it at least one or two more times to just to be safe.
Right. Right. Well, the schedule isn't very unfavorable for the Riders. I mean, they do have Calgary coming again. They do have, well, they have, their fate in their own hands. Edmonton is in a couple of weeks, and they get the Owls, but that's in that last week when I'm pretty sure the Owls are going to be uh, sitting their starters for at least 3/4 of the game, if not the whole game. Um, okay. Speaking of the Alouettes, Montreal Alouettes 24, Ottawa Redblacks 12. I'm afraid I'm going to have to do the broken record again. And by the way, that reference, I sound like a broken record. That's getting to be quite a dated reference, isn't it?
No, it's not. Have you seen all the vinyl in stores again?
Well, that's true.
Vinyl is cool.
Oh,
When
all
I was
right.
growing up, vinyl was around still, but it was
Right.
going out of style. I've
Yep.
lived long enough now to see it go from out of style to back in style.
Yep. Yep.
And maybe I'll live long enough to see it go back out of style again. Who knows?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. As a physical medium, it's a tad delicate. But on the other hand, it's great for collecting, and collecting, I think, has never been bigger in our society than it is today.
Nah,
Um,
I can tell you that much. I mean, as much as it's a dumb thing to do, I still get the bug every so often.
Yep. The physical medium. It's going to get you. Stick with data. All right. So, I'm starting to sound like a little bit of a broken record here, but how can you blame me? Okay. As an Alouettes fan, you got to love what this defense does every week. That early pick 6 was, just really set the tone once again. It was really a boost for my fantasy team and anybody else who had Alouettes defense this week. Uh, it's a good play, by the way, statistically. They cost a lot, but usually they give you a lot of points as well. We had 3 picks in this game. It was enough to lift Drew Brown again at quarterback. Um, Ty Beverett, Damon Sankey, Bryce Cosby, Wesley Sutton. You can just go down the roster. Deontay Ruffin scored his first touchdown of the year. You can just go down the roster on this defense, and they all played awesome again. What's not to like? 226 yards passing, no touchdowns. Fletcher having 8 carries for 36 yards. And one of those was for 11. So he's basically going 7 for 25 in this game. Not a boon for fantasy football this week was he. How do you assess? I mean, am I off here, Joe? I mean, this is the correct assessment of the Alouettes right now. Am I
Yeah,
off?
you're kind of in the right. You feel like this Montreal team is what the Bombers have been the past few years. Not incredibly flashy on offense, although every once in a while they have their day where they put up 40 against somebody. But that defense is going to shut you down. I think the one big difference between this year's Alouettes and the past 3-4 years of the Bombers is they don't have that intimidating running game to just
Yeah.
choke the life out of teams in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But failing that, you've got everything else.
Well, sometimes I mean Fletcher has had some fantastic games this season, but I think that again, I don't know what's happening with Fajardo running out of batteries, running out of juice, or whatever. But again, I really think teams are keying on this. The Fletcher is not able to get those blocks like he was getting at the beginning of the year. Now, yeah, for this game, they were talking about this in the pregame show. We had 3 offensive linemen playing in different spots, but these past few weeks, it hasn't mattered who's been on the line. The blocking is still competent, and just Fajardo is just not producing. It's making me crazy. It's almost like the offense is relaxing because the defense is taking care of business, and that's not the greatest mentality to have in a one and done situation come playoff time. Again, I'm terrified of seeing these Red Blacks again in the playoffs. Um, the Red Blacks kind of really needed this game, so it was a shame that they were never really in it for them. Again, Jeremiah Masoli comes in, is responsible for the only touchdown that the Ottawa offense got. No, actually, that Ottawa got in this game. And jeez, on some of these sideline passes, I'm thinking to myself, why don't they just run that play every time? I mean, that's Mazzoli looked unbeatable there when he was going to the sidelines in this game. Maybe the middle of the field was dominated by the Owls, but geez, there was some sweet passes in there. So again, I mean, last week, similar situation. What are we going to do with Drew Brown now that the Red Blacks are basically locked into that number 2 spot? What
Like I've
happened?
been saying all season, though, you want to give Drew Brown as many reps as you can possibly give him. Because
Mhm.
remember, he's still basically a rookie. I mean, he's been in the league for a couple seasons. He's had a few starts before this year, but he hasn't had a full season of starts yet, even including this year. So the more you can get him out there, the more you can let him see other defenses. Great, let's keep it going. You have Mazzoli to be your relief pitcher for that exact reason. Is because Mazzoli's seen everything. He can come in and help you as long as you go to him in enough time. And in this case, I felt like they pulled him a little late because he was already basically in garbage time at that point. So also why your sideline passes were open because Montreal was guarding against the deeper stuff. But
Yeah.
you can but still, he's showing that he's still got the skill to come in and be that relief pitcher if you need him when everything's on the line. Right now, you're basically second place as long as Toronto doesn't catch you. So just keep playing Drew Brown. Keep it, keep trying, showing him what is out there. Clearly, he's going to be your future, but you have Mazzoli there in case of fire. You're in a good spot right now.
I guess. I guess. I just, again, let's say that you get the Eastern Championship game with Ottawa going to Montreal. Okay. Doesn't seem unlikely. All right. This is your Eastern Championship. And it looks like this. Wouldn't I mean at that point, if Drew is still shaky, don't you just start Mazzoli for that championship game?
If
He's been there.
he's been shaky for 2 months, yeah, but
Okay.
you
All
got to
right.
give him a little bit of a chance here to bounce back, show
Yep.
some resiliency, because this year you have Montreal on your way to go to the Grey Cup.
Mhm.
Next year, that might not be the case, but if you've taken him out of every pressure situation he could have possibly
Yeah. Okay.
faced, he's going to be in that situation next year,
Mhm.
or the year after, or the year after. Give it to him while he's got an opportunity to learn from it before you're looking for the next guy.
Mhm.
And if you're pulling him 3 drives into the Eastern Final when you're down 10-0, that's what you got to do. But if he's going to be your future, you got to at least trust him a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, again, the Red Blacks aren't exactly locked into that number two mathematically, but they have to do, I think, the minimum amount of work to just hold on to that two spot. Again, Toronto has problems of their own, but they have to look back at Toronto a little bit. I don't know. I wouldn't be too scared of that if I were Ottawa. I think Ottawa is a more solid team. Quarterback questions notwithstanding. Finally, we closed out with Winnipeg Blue Bombers 27, Edmonton Elks 14. Now, you were just on the Elks Call podcast, a fellow Shotgun Sports Network podcast. And it was pretty funny because I saw the chat. Uh, and they said, "Would you like to join us to talk about how your team throttled ours this past week?" So go ahead. I don't want to steal their takes, but hey, I'm going to steal their takes. What did you make of this game? How did you feel about this game? And how scared were you in that fourth quarter when Rankin whipped off a 35-yarder?
Not scared at all, really,
Right.
because the Bombers have found themselves, and it's been pretty obvious for the last couple of weeks now that they're back to at least playing the same style they have over the past few years. The thing they're missing is the dynamic deep balls, but like everybody else is missing that too. Have you been noticing that a lot of teams are rushing 3 or 4 at most? Not a lot of teams are blitzing anymore. It seems like they're saying, "Okay, we're dropping 8. Good luck."
Yeah.
And if you've been watching Paul LaPolice's videos lately, he's going over how quarterbacks are attacking this. And the video he did about Zach Claros and the Banjo Bowl is just fantastic because you're sitting there going, "Okay, he's dumping it off a lot," when you're sitting there watching it live. But then Lavo is showing you, okay, this is what he's looking at, this is what he's looking at, and you're seeing the riders, or I mean, everybody's doing this now, so it's not just them, flooding these zones with 3, 4 guys, and it's just like, okay, well, the guy that's wide open is 5 yards away. That's just the way it is this year.
Mhm.
Um, so nobody's, maybe Hamilton a little bit's doing well throwing the deep balls, but I mean, who is really?
Well,
BC
yeah, but
hasn't been able to do it since July, right?
yeah.
So who else is doing it? Who's got the deep balls? Montreal's not doing that. Ottawa's not doing that.
No.
Like it seems like the defenses are starting to drop back more. So the offenses are going underneath. And if they're playing like everybody's playing Calgary ball now. Remember we've been harping on Calgary for 2 or 3 years, so the ball downfield once in a while? Well, everybody's not doing that as much anymore because the defenses are telling them not to.
Right.
Winnipeg just happens to thrive in that situation because they have good receivers underneath. They have Brady Oliveira to run through those holes if you're going to give them those holes. Like Winnipeg's set for this kind of football.
Mhm,
It's weird that people are like gifting that to us because Zach was having a lot of trouble earlier this season when there was more pressure on him,
mhm,
and then he would feel the pressure to make a big play. And like after 0-4, after 2-6, that's gone away. You're not seeing Zach force the ball anymore. Every once in a while, he'll have a matchup where it's one on one, and the defender will win the battle and have the interception. That's
mhm,
far different than throwing it into double coverage because you're trying to make something happen.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and you also notice too. Look at what the runners have done this season,
Hmm.
right? I mean, Brady Oliveira is probably going to be MVP this season. In this game, Justin Rankin, who is on one week, off another week, is part of this three-headed monster. 157 yards on 14 carries,
Hmm.
right?
And
Because
Winnipeg was offering that
right,
because they decided not to let Trey Ford beat them.
right,
I watched, I rewatched that first half. They Edmonton was running a lot of read option,
okay,
and Winnipeg was not committing to the running back at all. They were rushing three, maybe four once in a while. There'd be a spy or two, and then the rest of the field. Trey, we want you to throw against us. That's what they were saying. Or we'll deal with Rankin getting a first down here and there. We're not letting your feet beat us.
mhm,
And you saw
mhm,
one time early in the third quarter where Trey pulled it down and ran and
yep,
almost got a first down, got caught from
yep,
behind by a shoelace. But then the Bombers went right back to, okay, fine. You think you're gonna run? No, we're shutting that down. You beat us with your arm and Justin Rankin's speed.
right, 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 right. And yeah, as a result, Trey Ford did not look awesome. He was 10 of 17, 131 yards, two interceptions versus one touchdown. So yeah, no. Shut down that running threat by Ford, and you're all set. And pretty soon, McLeod Bethel Thompson is coming in again for the Elks.
And then
Okay.
going 2 and out, and then the Bombers grind the clock to basically nothing.
Hmm.
Game over.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. In that fourth quarter, I mean, that was it. It was one more flash of light. That was Justin Rankin, again, with the 35-yarder. That was with about 11, 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then that was it. That was it. Two and out were the next two drives by Edmonton. Meanwhile, Winnipeg scoring again. So it's just like, again, classic Bombers defense in the fourth quarter. Just shut down defense. It's going to be wild seeing the Bombers against the Alouettes in the Great Cup, and both of these teams are scoring 0 points in the fourth quarter with these
Well,
defenses.
and they're the two best defenses in the league
Yeah.
by points.
Yep.
Montreal and Winnipeg, and that's by 50 points. After Winnipeg's given up 288, Montreal's given up 300. The next closest team is BC at 350, and we yell at BC about having a bad defense sometimes. Like maybe we need to reassess that a little bit.
Well, I mean, several things need to be reassessed about BC, who got the bye week last week, by the way. Uh, for example, I mean, you're looking at this team, you're saying, oh, you have two franchise quarterbacks. Well,
No,
their
you
best
don't.
player this
You're going
season
to have
has
one
been the runner.
season.
You know, they've, he's their halfback has dominated this year. So again, the CFL is a league constantly due for reassessment by its fans and observers, I think. I mean, it's nice to see, Winnipeg be so consistent after their 2-6 start. But,
And now it's
other
8-6. I'm all for it.
but other than that, you always need to adapt your viewpoint in this league, I think. Constantly reassess. It's a great league. All right, we will go to next week's games. I'd like to give the promo right now. We're talking about Royal Retros at royalretros.com. When they say retros, they mean memorabilia, baseball caps, jerseys, t shirts, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, jackets, and more at royalretros.com. Royal Retros has the gear and paraphernalia representing dozens of teams from the USFL, the Arena Football League, what 1.0 and 2.0 at this point, the World Football League, the XFL 1.0, 2.0, Football Canada, various pro hockey leagues, including the WHA. They've got ABA basketball stuff, and the big selling point for me, the old Negro League and Pacific Coast League teams are represented here. And best of all, you can get 10% off anything in the store when you use promo code RWBCFL at checkout. RoyalRetros.com, promo code RWBCFL for 10% off. It's a great store. Right. Let's talk next week's games.
Oh,
The fun.
we could do playoff scenarios too if you'd
Oh,
like.
yes. Oh, yes. Right.
One of
Right.
our
Sorry.
favorite things to talk about, right?
Right. Sorry. That would have been a serious faux pas. Let's talk playoff scenarios. We have some this week.
Yes, we have more than just one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's start. Do you want to know how Montreal clinches the East?
Oh, they can clinch the East. Okay. I suppose they have to win and Ottawa has to lose.
That's an or. Ottawa's 8 and
Oh,
5.
really? Okay.
Ottawa's 8 and 5. So if Ottawa loses, they're 8 and 6.
Mhm.
And 1.
Right.
And Montreal's 11-2 and 1. So
Right.
Montreal has a tiebreaker. That's set. So a win makes them 12 and 2. Ottawa can only tie them and lose the tiebreaker that way too. So win or Ottawa loses any time in the next 5 weeks at this point.
Right.
They
So
won
basically, as they say in Major League Baseball, the magic number is one.
the
Right. Okay.
Now, Ottawa has something more to play for than just trying to keep pace with Montreal. If they win, they clinch their first postseason berth since 2018.
Yeah. Yeah. They were saying that on the TSN telecast.
Yep.
They could have done that this week. They could have done that this past week.
Right.
Against Montreal.
The other thing being, Ottawa can still clinch if Hamilton and Edmonton lose.
Hamilton and Edmonton.
Right.
Okay.
Because Edmonton losing would eliminate the possibility that Ottawa drops like a rock and gets crossed over on.
Right. Okay. All
right.
Okay. Wow. That's an interesting one. Okay.
Right. Because
we can't tell anything.
Calgary already can't cross over Ottawa because they would only be able to tie. Edmonton could theoretically go 9-9. Ottawa could fall 8-9-1. Hamilton or Toronto could catch them, or Hamilton could catch them in theory. But if they win one more game or one of those other two teams lose, that's out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then one more out west. The West could have their first playoff contestant clinch. If Winnipeg wins, they are in the postseason.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which when the Bombers were 2-6, if you said that they can clinch the postseason by the end of September, I'd have been like, sign me up.
Wow. Yeah. 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 That was quite a hole they dug. But on the other hand, if you had said, okay, the Riders are going to go from 5-6 to 6-7, I mean, would you have bought that?
Yes.
That seemed, or BC. BC was the other one. They started what, 5 and no, BC started 5-2, and now they're at
BC was the one I would have been less likely to believe, but even so, I've been waiting for them to take the next step for 2-3 years now. So.
Yeah, but even if so all right. So here's BC. They're at 5-2. In fact, they even were 5-1. So they're at 5-1, and then you say, "Oh yeah, by the way, Nathan Rourke is going to be back."
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now, do you believe that they're 7-7 at this point?
No,
right?
not for a second.
Right. Right. And so that was another thing that contributed to this Bombers rise as well. Speaking of the Bombers, next week we start with again, this line kind of surprised me a little bit. We start the week with Edmonton Elks at Winnipeg. Edmonton is a 4.5 point underdog here. You'd think it would be more. Um,
But Winnipeg doesn't score that much.
yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
That's true. That's true. Um, on the other hand, there's not much evidence that anyone can stop Brady Oliveira. So that might be a decent fantasy play this week. I
It
would
has
guess.
been for the last little while. He finally
Yeah.
got on the board touchdown wise, which I was shocked to
Yeah.
hear. Like for the past couple weeks, they've been going on about him not having scored a touchdown, and I'm like,
Right.
really? But then again, for the first 10 weeks of the season, it was anytime we're inside the 5, oh, here's Chris Trevler, and that's
Yep.
only thing he's going to do is take the snap and run the ball.
Yep.
No surprise either way.
Yep.
So
Yep. He's the Dustin Crum of the Blue Bombers. Okay, so I okay. It sounds to me like you like Winnipeg in a close one.
mm,
Um,
more probably but what last week was. McLeod Bethel
yeah,
Thomas will be in.
yeah,
I just don't see him shredding a Winnipeg secondary that's been playing lights out lately. So
yeah, yeah.
it
Well,
is
and that's true.
an interesting avenue of attack for Edmonton though, is to go, okay, we'll give you the athletic quarterback one week, and then oh by the way, here's the classic drop back pass at the next.
Right.
I mean, good for them for thinking outside the box and trying something different, especially given that they still seem to think, or at least haven't made it clear that Trey Ford's not their future. So you have to make the assumption he is. But then after one after Winnipeg solves him basically last week, they go, okay, let's try something else.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I would expect that. I would also expect to see. I, I, I want to see more of these two running back and three running back backfields from Edmonton. I mean, again, that's definitely a strength of this team is that they have so many backs to choose from here on the offense.
Honestly, I
And
think the most effective backfield set they've had, and not to take anything away from Kevin Brown or Justin Rankin, I like both of them as players. Actually, I really like Rankin.
yeah,
But
Rankin's awesome.
the best setup they could have in the backfield right now is Trey Ford at quarterback and Javon Leake at running back, and run read option and say, pick your
Yeah,
poison. One of these two is going to be really, really fast, and you're not going to be covering him. Good luck.
yeah, that's a
Sign
good call.
the game in Saskatchewan.
Mhm, mhm. Well, I liked when they had a 3 game run where they were playing Rankin and Leak on a majority of offensive snaps. I really
Yeah,
like that because Rankin throws some nice blocks in there. This guy can block, so I like what he does in that tandem as
yeah.
well.
I
Um,
just like this. I like the speed, the dual speed threat.
mhm.
Either you
Yeah,
clap on Leak and get good luck with Ford, or you make the call to play Ford and you're giving Leak huge holes.
right.
And Rankin did very, very well in that scenario this past week. Very well. It's just that Leak's got that one extra step to go 35 yards. No, let's make it 85.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll both take Winnipeg. I kind of like Winnipeg minus the points here. I don't think I would bet it, but I kind of like that. Now this one, I really, I feel disrespected. I feel disrespected. Montreal Alouettes at Toronto Argonauts. Owls are just a 1.5 point favorite. Okay, and I am sorry. I am not convinced that Chad Kelly can solve this Montreal defense right now.
Nope.
So I'm going Alouettes all the way on this one. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll give you a point and a half. I'll give you 3 points.
Next,
I
please.
yeah, right, exactly, exactly. Okay, let's go next, please. Now here's an interesting line. Hamilton Tiger Cats are, I would say, just 7 point underdogs at BC. Now, the tendency is, and you've actually gotten burned on this a couple of times this season, Joe. The tendency here is just to say, okay, BC bye week, here. Let's go.
Hosting an Eastern team at
Right.
the 7:30 Pacific time slot. This is a gimme, right?
Right. However,
Hesitant.
the last time they went into a bye, they went in 5-2 and they came out 7-7. So I'm not gonna put anything. I'm not gonna put any extra weight on the bye week. BC could have used that bye week to their advantage because they've got some questions there. Like the main question being, what has happened to this offense? Where did it go? Right, it disappeared. Maybe it's this drop back 8 scenario as you talked about, but maybe they'll use this bye week with all the talent that they have to solve this issue. On the other hand, again, like I said, the Ticats are playing their best ball of the season. It helps that they've played Toronto a couple of times in the past 4 weeks, but um, they're kind of hot. I guess I'll go with BC here just by the numbers. I can't see them losing. I just can't see BC as a 500 team. You know, they got to win some of these games once in a while. So I'll
I had
take
that
BC.
the exact same thought line, and then I'm like, this feels too clear cut, too easy. So
Right.
I'm gonna go complete 180. Hamilton's playing
Wow.
well. BC's
Okay.
not.
Okay.
You could take away all all the intangibles seem to slide BC's way, but that doesn't seem to matter lately. I think it's
Hmm.
Hamilton's game, and
Wow.
they're not going to be expected to win. The line says BC by 7. Nobody's going to pick them. Nobody's going to expect this from them.
Yeah.
And I think they're just going to go out and tear BC secretary to shreds.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Are you so you're literally going to have Hamilton and pick them this week?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Okay. All right.
I mean,
Yeah. Why not?
I stopped filling out the website like 3 weeks ago. Once I forgot once, I just like whatever. But yeah, Hamilton and Pick'em. Let's go.
All right. All right, I'll take it. I'll take it. Wow. Okay, I can see that. Wow. I'll tell you what. If Toronto loses that in division game to Montreal and Hamilton wins, wow. Things are going to
Hmm.
be hairy in Argos land. Let me tell you, that's going to be a bad outcome for Toronto if that happens. But on the plus side, at least my Toronto comes in fourth place prediction at the beginning of the season starts to look even better. So I'm liking that pick more and more every day these days. Okay, finally, we've talked about this a couple of times already in the Tyquell Armstead revenge game. It's Ottawa Red Blacks 3.5 point underdogs at Saskatchewan. Now, I don't know if the Riders actually get the so-called Vegas bump that, let's say, the Cowboys do or the Steelers do in the States. But 3.5 points, I'm surprised. I think Ottawa could surprise here. Saskatchewan has not been awesome at home this season. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll take the Red Blacks here. I'll take the
Me
Red
too.
Blacks. All right. All right. I
Saskatchewan,
like it.
the only game Saskatchewan's won in the past, what, 7, 8 weeks,
Uh-huh.
is against a team that's struggling worse than they were.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
even then, it was close at the end. So I'm I'm not entirely sold. They come out and knock Ottawa around a little bit, and mind you, but Ottawa's given up more points than they've scored, so the record might be flattering to them slightly. But if Saskatchewan slaps them around a little bit, okay, looks like they've got back on their feet. But I'm gonna wait for them to do that first before I start going all in on them.
Mhm. 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 Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is that the riders, of course, the secret to this team all year, and it's actually surprising that they're under 500. The secret to this team this year has been the massive turnover differential that they've had. On the other hand, the Red Blacks tend not to turn the ball over. Last week was a bit of an outlier, a bit of an aberration for them with the 3 turnovers, but they were playing Montreal. So be interesting to see who wins the turnover battle of this game. That might just determine the outcome. if the Red Blacks can stay -1 or better, I think they could pull this off. So yeah, I'm going to take the Red Blacks here. I'm going to take the Red Blacks, and I'm going to wish apparently a lot of pain and suffering upon the Argonauts this this week. So, all right. All right. I am looking forward to this week. Should be a good one. Let's clinch that playoff spot, Montreal. Let's get that division clinched. Right. Any last thoughts, Joe? Hit us.
I, I agree with you. I want my team to clinch a playoff spot too.
Right. There you go. All right. And lots of pain and suffering to the Argos.
I'm not gonna say no to that.
And the Riders.
Sure, but that's just in
You will
general.
say yes to that.
That's just on general principle, though.
Right.
Actually, I actually think they have some talent. I'm just kind of like surprised they had the same swoon they've had lately.
Yeah. 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 It really looked like this would be the year that they would put something together in the second half of the season, but nope.
And yet they've got a month left to prove us wrong.
Eh, prove us wrong? I don't know about that.
I'll,
Imply that we are wrong. Maybe.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. I'm still going to be a skeptic when they're playing in that Western playoff game as the 3 seed at, 8 and 10. I'm still going to be skeptical of these riders. In any case, okay, let's get out of here. This has been the Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast, a production of Shotgun Sports Network. I'm Oz Davis for my co host Joe Pritchard. We are out of here. Enjoy the games and talk to you next week.